everybody, this is Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. People, two things really quickly before I get going, because I got good stuff tonight. I have two defects that we're going to talk about, two things that we believe, two mistakes that we make that make getting clean and sober far more difficult. Once identified, I think it's a lot easier to move forward. We're going to deal with that. But two things real quickly. First of all, your worth on this boat is never going to be determined by how great a comment you leave, by whether or not you have insight, or whether you know more about a specific drug, or more about rehabilitation, or more about anything. Your worth on this boat as a crew member and as a member of the support family is the fact that you show up and say to people, hey, I'm here for you. You know, someone's having a bad day and you lift them up. Or you say, you know what, if you just need to talk, I'm here. Someone shows up and you say, hey, welcome to the boat. That's what we determine as far as your worth goes. I read a comment where someone said, you know, I don't feel like I got a lot of great stuff to say. Man, we're not judging you on the great stuff that you say. We're judging you on the fact that you're here, that you've made a commitment to everybody here to be support family. That's huge. Now, I'm going to highlight a comment. And the reason is that it's not that this is the pithiest comment ever written. This is just someone speaking from the heart. And it was it's Beth is the person that left the comment. And it was such a great comment that Anna grabbed a hold of it and said that she nominated it to be pinned and get the participatory, I don't know why that just tied my tongue up, participatory trophy for participation. So I pinned the comment. People, if you go to the last video, it's going to be the pinned comment. You got to read it. It is such a statement on all of you. This is not a statement on me, but it is a statement on all of you. In fact, she said it to you. She didn't say it to me, which is awesome, but you got to read this. And in terms of the trophy, this is for you, Beth, and it is also for you, Anna, for realizing that needed to be honored. This is for you guys. I'm accepting it on your behalf since you could not be here in Nevada at this time. Okay, people, there are two things that are misconceptions about recovery and about addiction, and they get in the way in strange and unusual ways because it's kind of a twofold thing. Number one, I think that a lot of addicts want to believe that addiction is just a matter of bad behavior. And I think we get that because not only does the addict believe that, but everybody around them certainly does, right? I mean, how many times have you heard somebody say something along the lines of, I don't know why he just can't stop after 3 or 4, right? It makes perfect sense to them. They can stop after 3 or 4 beers. Why can't that person, right? Or I can just drink on weekends. I've been doing that since college. You hear these kind of things constantly, and it's not just alcohol. I mean, this does go all the way into drugs. There are people, I have really close friends who do blow every single New Year's. These are successful people who have their life together, but it's an annual thing. They get, quarter ounce of Coke, and about 4 of them go out, and every single New Year's, they're bringing in the new year, they're doing lines. They put it away till the following year. I mean, the drug's illegal. I'm not going to sit and tell you that you should be doing illegal drugs. But if you said, if you asked me, do they have a problem with cocaine? My answer would be no. If you could do something once a year and put it down, again, it's illegal. I'm not condoning the use of cocaine, but I'm saying these people don't have an issue. Now, if you're one of their friends and on January 2nd, you're buying another quarter ounce, you're going to get that, man, I don't know why he just can't stop like we do because we can't. We are completely different. But because it's said all around, right, that comes back into us, and we don't want to admit ourselves that there's something wrong with us. So for years, many people just think, well, if I can change the behavior, right? I'm not doing this right. I've got to learn to be able to control this, right? It's just a behavioral thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop drinking Jack Daniels, because that is just, once I go to the hard stuff, if I just stick with beer, or you're a beer drinker and you say, I drink 25 beers in a night. I'm just going to do like 5 mixed drinks and I'll be done. And, I won't be going to the bathroom as much. And you really can convince yourself of almost anything. What you don't want to do is admit that we're wired differently. There is something in the brain that makes it so that, quite simply, you cannot do it. No amount of willpower in the world is going to override the way your brain works. It's not going to happen. So I like to say, come and borrow the willpower from us here. That willpower that you can get from this, right? Support family is the willpower to quit. It's not the willpower to be able to become a social drinker. That's something you can do or you can't. It's not something that you can overcome if you're an alcoholic. Plain and simple. But it's difficult for us to admit it feels like a defect, right? It feels like, well, they can do this every New Year's. So there's something wrong with me. That's what you're telling me. There's something wrong with me. I'm not telling you there's something wrong with you. I'm telling you you're different. There's nothing wrong with you. But you're wired different. And because of that wiring, there's no chance you're ever going to be able to do this. And if you think, well, I get wild on Coke. When we get together for New Year's, I'm just going to eat some Valium. You know what I mean? I promise you people, an addict very quickly can switch from one drug to another. We've been over this, right? Cross addiction is huge. Swapping out one drug for another is a problem 90% of the time. Again, ruffling feathers. If you became a pot smoker instead of doing 9 grams of heroin a day, I'm not going to really lean on you. Now, down the road, maybe you want to take a look at that. Or if you're taking Suboxone as a way to not do heroin and you take it for the rest of your life, congratulations on getting sober. I'm proud of you. Because one of those 2 drugs is not going to get a heroin addict high. Plain and simple. Suboxone does not get. Now, people are going to say, there'll be somebody in the comment section that says, I did that stuff once and I got wasted. Very much like you can give someone with ADHD Ritalin and it doesn't wire them out, but you give it to someone who doesn't have ADHD and it's going to wire them. If you have an opiate dependency disorder, if you truthfully have been addicted to opiates for a long enough period of time, you can put a strip of Suboxone under your tongue and let it melt, and you are never going to know you did it. Plain and simple. The only high, air quotes, that you're going to get off of that is going to be the high of realizing that you're not craving anything. So there are situations, that 10%, where I personally, and this is up to everybody, but I personally don't see it as a problem. And the people in the rehab community are going to blow an O-ring that I said that, but you know how we feel about the people in the rehab community anyway, right? We're here to get sober. I'm not here to fall in line with anybody else's what they dictate. What works here is what works here, so we're going to go with that. The second sort of fallacy that tends to be something that comes up time and time again in the process of trying to get sober is this misconception that it's the outside elements, it's the things around us, right, that are really the issue. It's the if-only syndrome. If only I didn't live in this town. You know how many addicts as a heroin addict? I did it 3 or 4 times. I moved to a new town. Man, if I could just get out of here. My problem is that I know everybody in this town. I can get heroin with one phone call. It takes 5 minutes. I get to the next town. It's only a week or 2, right? And then, no, truthfully, it's not easy finding a heroin addict. But a heroin dealer. But a heroin addict knows. So you go to the methadone clinic, or you do whatever you have to do. No matter where I moved, I was always still there. You could take me and put me on the moon. If there was heroin there, I was going to find it because I am the problem. It's not the outside, right, circumstances. But we tend to convince ourselves that it is as much as possible. If only this, if only that, if only... We don't, again, it's the same phenomenon as the bad behavior. We do not want to admit that the problem with our addiction has nothing to do with our surroundings. It has nothing to do with the situations in which we live. What it boils down to falls between the left and the right ear. Something that is going on in your brain is different than the next person. And it doesn't make you awful. It doesn't make you bad. It makes you addicted. Plain and simple. It just means that you're not able to take that substance the way someone else can. If you're allergic to penicillin, no one says, that guy's a jackass, he can't even take penicillin, right? But we tend to look at drug addicts, which, by the way, is a very, very similar thing, believe it or not. You could almost view me and opiates as I have a form of an allergy almost, right? I take heroin, I'm allergic. I break out in handcuffs. It's the only thing that's going to stop me. Once you light that candle, the only thing that's going to stop me from doing heroin is when they finally clip the handcuffs on. And I have found over time that each time those handcuffs click, it's for something more serious. You know, it starts out that you're shoplifting something, and you know, it just continually progresses until I have robbed a casino. The next thing you know, you're robbing banks, and in your head, you know what I mean? The threshold, we've talked about this before, the threshold for what you're doing. The first time you walk into a store and shove something in your pants and walk out of there, that your adrenaline is pumping, you know, your heart's racing, and you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, this isn't right." You know what I mean? It goes against everything that you were brought up to believe. I was raised in a good home, you know, with very religious parents, and we had a very set standard you know, list of rules of what's right and wrong. And I promise you, theft was pretty big on the wrong list. But it starts out with that first one, and just like anything else, like calling in for work or any of the other bad behaviors that are caused once you become addicted. The bad behavior is not why you're addicted. I'm talking about the symptoms of that. They just continually get worse each time, and the next thing you know, I'm incarcerated, right? There's an old expression: you're either going to end up in institutions, right? You're going to either end up in the morgue, you're going to end up in the hospital, or you're going to end up in prison. And if you're lucky, you end up in prison, because at least they're going to remove you from your substance long enough for you to at least take a look at your life. You know, it's usually pretty hard to get dope in a county jail. Prison, it's pretty easy to get dope, but that 8-9 months you're in county jail before you get there, you know, in theory, it'll give you enough time to get sober and maybe to start taking a look at your life. But don't fall into the trap, people. If you're new to this, if you're just now starting to say, all right, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm actually going to stick around with these guys on this boat and see if I can't make this happen. Don't confuse those two things, people. It isn't a matter of bad behavior. It's a matter of a chemical difference in your brain than that of your friend who does not have that problem. And it isn't where you live. It isn't the job you have. It isn't how your wife is always carping on you or your husband is a cheater. No, it's the fact that there's something going on in your brain that doesn't allow you to say no. And that is such a strong compulsion that willpower, yours alone or all of us lending you ours, is only going to be enough to get you to stop. You're never going to be strong enough to just have a couple of drinks. You're never going to be strong enough to just use dope on special occasions. You're not. And I'll get a comment, I had a friend that was an alcoholic and now he's a social drinker. No, you had a friend who was drinking way too much. Then he decided to stop, and now he has a couple of beers every now and then. If he was an alcoholic, he did not become a social drinker. It doesn't happen. You can leave me a comment and tell me how it does. If that makes you happy, go ahead and do that. You're wrong. You're wrong. It doesn't happen. And there's enough research to gag a maggot to prove that. It's just the way it is. So don't get bogged down with these two huge misconceptions, because if you do, this is going to be a far more difficult process to get sober. Become the mayor of Realville, right? We've gone over this. You know, you want to lie to other people, right? That's denial. You start lying to yourself, you're in deep trouble. You really are. That's when the rubber meets the road and the ship, so to speak, hits the sand. So, people, please, today, if you're hearing this for the first time, do yourself a favor, introduce yourself into the comment section, listen to one or two other videos, get an idea for what it is that we're doing here, and take the plunge. What have you got to lose, right? What have you got to lose? How well has the addictive process been working out for you? My guess is you've lost jobs, right? You may have been arrested, maybe not, but your marriage is probably not in great shape. As a parent, you're probably not doing a great job. In fact, I'd go out on a limb and say every relationship you've got is suffering. What do you got to lose? Today, take a chance. Say tomorrow morning, I'm going to come here. I'm going to listen to these guys, and I'm going to try to stop drinking for one day. And then maybe we'll get you to do it the next day. I'm picking on alcohol because it's very common. It doesn't matter what your habit is, people. It doesn't matter what your habit is. Give it a shot. Listen, people, you want to join this? You want to start supporting other people and getting supported by us? Just click down here. Right now, it's the symbol from the old show. Won't be for long. In fact, I was talking to one of my partners tonight about this, so should be seeing something new here shortly. Over here are some videos. I suggest watching all of them, a dozen, maybe a baker's dozen, 13 times. Honestly, I'm kidding. But watch them. Watch the ones, and if they touch you, if they speak to you, watch them again. Now, I've talked for so long, they probably are showing up somewhere around here. Click on them, people. I promise you, you're not going to regret it. You've got nothing to lose. Up to this point, nothing's worked, right? Okay, people, I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on a boat with us, right? We're all in this boat together. This is the lifeboat. See you on the next video.